Hello, and welcome to 20 Lore Pro, a community of Lorcana players who enjoy deck building, competing, and opening Lorcana product. You can find out more at our Discord community, 20lorepro/Discord, link in the description. We have tons of upcoming events, deck lists, and deck discussions. In today's video, we'll be watching Evolutions Trading Lorcana 1K, Round 5, featuring Julius, piloting Amber Sapphire, versus Ron, piloting Emerald Steel. Wish our competitors luck, and enjoy the video.
Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. Today we are at Evolutions Trading Card Games in Killeen, Texas at their Lorcana 1K, the first into Set 3 into the Inklands. I'm your announcer, SirAshtown, and our producer behind the scenes is Lucksack. We want to thank y'all so much for tuning in to 20 Lore Pro. We're heading into round 5 of 5 before we cut the top 8. We want to thank y'all again for coming here to Twitch. We're looking at Julius, who we saw in round 4 playing Amber Sapphire, playing against Ron with Emerald Steel. I want to thank y'all so much for joining us. This is an important match for both players, as whoever wins will be entering top 8, while the loser will not make top 8. And here we are going into round 5, game 1, Ron versus Julius. Ron with a turn 1 Captain Hook. Captain Hook just being a great challenger early on, especially. Julius, we saw during the round 4 having Pluto's turn 1. This match not having those Plutos, but still having that bodyguard Simba. Really thinking about what he'd like to do next. Ron thinks of Captain Hook. Followed up by a Morph, a big inclusion by many Emerald Steel players from Into the Inklands. Morph just able to have any Floodborn shift on top of it. Morph from the movie Treasure Planet can transform into any character or object. Really a playful character all throughout the film. Makes a really strong character for Lorcana here in an Emerald Steel Floodborn deck. Some of these Emerald Steel decks go more towards a Floodborn character route, while others are trying to focus on the discard element. Today we've seen several of these Emerald Steel decks really focus on the power of both of the new Ursulas, Ursula the Deceiver and Ursula Deceiver of All. Ursula Deceiver, the 2-drop, that we can kind of see in Ron's hand, having the ability to look at your opponent's hand allows you to take a song. Ron choosing to shift a Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. Again, one of my favorite arts from Into the Inklands. Just a card that is really strong and protects those other characters in its artwork. Ursula here on the screen for you to see, Deceiver, a 1/3, but when it comes into play, you can look at your opponent's hand. That Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, just a really strong challenger with a 3/6. During your turn, whenever you challenge, whenever this character is banished, you can gain 2 lore. Whenever this character is banished in a challenge, you draw a card. Pretty good. Ron trying to think of what he wants to do. He's got that shifted Robin Hood on the Morph. Decides to double cast an Ursula and a Captain Hook Playing the 3-drop Ursula that I mentioned earlier, the Deceiver to All. Ursula, Deceiver of All, having really strong ability that we've seen throughout this tournament used in several of these decks to sing songs twice and then put it back in the bottom of your deck as long as it's the singer. Julius thinking about his plays. We saw him earlier play a Chernobog during the last round. This time setting up a Queen. A Queen shift line, having the big Queen in play. Along with the 2 Popsicles, able to draw that we have some more resources, some recursion in the deck, along with a little bit of healing if you need that later on. Julius wanting to check real quick what the ability is on Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood is. Sometimes it's hard for a lot of players, including myself, to kind of remember all these new cards, especially when it is release weekend. That's why it's so exciting to be able to host and announce a Lorcana 1K during this weekend to see more competitive play. Seeing all these new cards and seeing the way they interact in competitive play is a real treat. Ron using that Robin Hood to sing Whole New World maintains his resources and ink to be able to play whatever he draws this turn. Julius having discarded that Chernobog that we see in the discard pile. Ron having a new fresh set of hands, that way he's able to look and play the best card for his board state. Playing another new card from Into the Inklands. Along came Zeus, dealing 5 damage to the Queen. Along Came Zeus being a very good song from the movie Hercules. Really great artwork, just showing the strength and power of Zeus. Ron questing with the rest of his characters, ending his turn. The downside to Along Came Zeus is that it's uninkable. Small downside for such a strong card that can be sung and or played, targeting locations and characters. Here's Julius with that Pluto, which does make characters cost 1 less, making it able to play and help you play stronger characters later on. Pluto being a new inclusion by these Amber decks, really strong in the fact that whenever you tap it, you can help cast more expensive characters like Chernobog. Julius trying to gain as much ink in his inkwell as he can, plays a Grandma Tala, having inked a Grandma Tala this turn. We haven't seen a player playing Sapphire who has the bigger Grandma Tala in their deck, but I'm sure in the future in competitive Lorcana we'll see Grandma Tala come to the forefront. Julius playing a Simba Bodyguard. Chooses to play a Jump Ahead to put 1 card into his inkwell. That Grandma Tala up on the screen for you to see, the new one from Into the Inklands. Whenever cards put into your inkwell, you gain a lore. Huge ability for a board state just like this, where Julius is putting a lot of those cards in his inkwell. You saw him play a Jump Ahead and Grandma Tala. All would have been able to give him 1 lore. Ron, thinking about his plays, goes ahead and inks, tapping 5 ink in his inkwell to cast a Robin Hood, as well as the other card that is behind the banner, a Beast Tragic Hero. Beast Tragic Hero being one of the strongest cards from set 2, just able to help you gain resources each turn by allowing you to draw an extra card as long as it's not damaged. Ron went ahead and quested with everything to gain up to 14 lore. Julius staring down a strong board state by Ron. Julius plays a Cogsworth. Cogsworth having Ward itself and the ability to give other characters resist 1, also having a great quest line for 2. Julius thinking about trying to clean up some of these characters on the board. That way, Ron can't gain so much lore and win next turn. And I believe he's still left 6 lore on the board on Ron's side. The Beast able to quest for 2, as well as the Robin Hood. And we see the Pride Land location being played for the first time by Julius. Had not seen this card yet this tournament. There's Pride Lands up on the screen for you to see. Characters here get +2 defense while they're there. If you have a Prince or a King character, you can pay 1 less for that character in order to play it. Julius staring down so much lore ability for Ron to have on his side of the board that he decides to scoop it up and go to game 2. Ron really just hanging out that game by each turn playing a powerful threat one after the other, starting with that Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood, shifted onto the Morph. Really, ever since that turn, he was playing cards each and every single turn that made his cards able to gain and quest lore each turn and take the game away. Julius having low-cost aggro characters, not really able to challenge Ron's characters very well, allowing Ron to be able to quest with them and take the game away. Let's jump on over into round 5, game 2. Ron piloting Emerald Steel versus Julius piloting Amber Sapphire. Looks like Julius is going to go ahead and go first, inking a Grandma Tala. It's been really great seeing these Emerald Steel decks that have come here today to Evolutions Trading and just watching the different variants as people are trying to discover the best play lines in the Emerald Steel decks. We've seen a lot of color combinations in today's tournament that I hadn't seen in past competitive sets, such as set 1, set 2. One such color pairing being Amethyst Emerald. It's paying off for those players, though, as we've seen several new color combinations really making it into the top 8. Ron with a turn 1 Robin into a turn 2 Morph. The turn 1 Robin being quite a strong card itself, being a 1-drop, but in addition to that, an inkable 1-drop that could be shifted upon by Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. We see a Piglet from Julius. This new Piglet is seeing quite a bit of play as characters are trying to see how well it fits into the Amber decks. This Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, having a 2/2 body, the ability to be inked, and while you have 2 or more other characters in play, it gains the ability to quest for 2 additional lore. Julius utilizing that Minnie Mouse detective to gain a little bit more lore in his inkwell. Here's Ron, using Morph to the best of his ability, shifting a turn 3 Beast, Tragic Hero. Beast, Tragic Hero, of course, one of the best cards from set 2, just giving you the ability to have an additional resource at your upkeep by giving you another card draw. Julius looking at playing possibly another Piglet into a second Mickey Mouse detective. Mickey Mouse and these character cards like Winnie the Pooh really helping add the character count whenever they reach the banish pile, allowing you to have a lower cost Chernabog later on in the game. Chernabog we have already seen from Julius in the previous round and this match from a discard from a whole new world. Having just that 9/9 body, the ability to quest for 3, just makes him very powerful. Ron able to draw 2 off of that beast. Trying to figure out how to best clean up this board that's presented on Julius's side. If I'm not mistaken, on Julius's hand, I think I see a grab your swords, maybe mistaken, but for sure another morph. With Ron's inkwell being so low, these morphs becoming that much more important, allowing him to play these high draw Bloodborne earlier than possible. And there's that grab your swords from Ron that I thought I had seen in his hand, dealing 2 damage to every character on Julius' side of the board. Those Mickeys having 2 damage each on them, able to get rid of that 2/2 Piglet. Julius putting those damages onto those characters. Beast now vulnerable. If it receives damage, isn't able to allow to draw extra cards into his hand. Ron, considering the advantages and disadvantages, deciding that it was the best play for him at the time. Julius playing 2 Pride lands, one of the new locations given to Amber during this set. Pride lands just allowing your characters to have better toughness, as well as allowing you to play princes and kings for 1 less. Also having 7 toughness on a location, very strong and hard to get rid of for most places, along with giving you the passive ability of gaining the lore. After moving his character over onto one of the Pride lands, Julius passes his turn over to Ron, choosing not to attack into to challenge into the beast. Got a correction on the board. Only 1 Mickey had gotten transferred over. Ron getting another resource into his inkwell. Shifts a Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood onto Morph. Really showing the power of Morph yet again, allowing Robin Hood to come out onto the board, able to challenge if there was a exerted character to gain more lore, but in this case, really just able to sing a Let the Storm Rage On, getting rid of one of the Mickeys and drawing Ron a card. Let the Storm Rage On being an uninkable 3-drop, but the ability to deal 2 damage to target character and draw you a card. It can also be sung, as we saw here with Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. Really a versatile card that we see a lot of the cards in Emerald Steel able to sing. One of those being Ursula, which will give you the ability to do 4 damage to a character and draw 2 cards. Ursula, Deceiver of All, which we have not seen yet from Ron, one of the main inclusions from a lot of these decks, can sing a lot of your 3 or lower drop spells very well. Julius counting up his Inkwell, trying to determine what he can play, opts for a Cloud Kicker, inking a Grandma Tala. Cloud Kicker getting several versions that are played now in several different decks that we've seen tested at least. It shifts for 3 along with having Ward, allows you to quest for 3, and has that 5 toughness. Three lore being quite a bit, especially here in a match where we are currently at Julius at 2 and Ron at 3. Ron decides to use the new card, Titan, to destroy the location of one of the Pride lands that Mickey Mouse Detective was sitting on. Opting to use his characters to quest out, Ron plays a Ursula and passes the turn. Here's that Titan card I was telling you about, Rise of the Titans. It banishes chosen location or item. Very reminiscent of the Hercules film where the Titans tried to climb Mount Olympus and take it over for themselves. Julius opting to ink a Hades. I apologize. Using Hades to ink a Beast and Morph, giving 2 more ink resources into Ron's Inkwell. Ron may have wanted to rather have had the extra draw ability, but loses it due to Hades. Hades being a strong card in and of itself, a 7-drop, 3/6 that can quest for 2, but causes one character to go into the Inkwell. We saw Ron attempting to cast a Along Came Zeus with Robin Hood, opts instead to use that same Robin Hood to cast World. Using the Robin Hood to sing A Whole New World allows Ron now the ability to utilize all of his Inkwell to cast any cards that he draws this turn. Ron playing the new Mr. Smee and questing with his remaining characters. Ron so far trying to stabilize, maintains a strong board stay at this time. Julius may try to find a comeback here, especially with having his hand refilled by A Whole New World. Julius has quite a cards in his Inkwell due to a lot of the Mickey Mouse Detectives that we saw early on, as well as Jump Ahead and Grandma Tala. Sometimes a big debate in competitive Lorcana is when to use Whole New World and when to allow your opponent to just stay low in cards in their hands. Ron opting to want a Whole New World, that way he can have the ability to play bigger creatures, allowing him to have stronger characters such as Beast. Julius moving Cloud Kicker over to the Pride lands. The Pride lands just being one of these new locations that we're seeing in some of these Amber decks that people are testing out, trying to determine if the payoff to make it tougher is worth the playing a 2-drop uninkable land. Pride lands, of course, being from the memorable Lion King film, from the iconic scene where Rafiki holds up little Simba. Julius trying to decide if he wants to west. Instead, he decides to try to challenge and banish the Robin Hood, champion of Sherwood. Forgetting to tap his characters, Julius does tap them. Ron, able to draw an extra card off of the beast, now has more resources in his hands to make better play decisions. Ron inking a Hercules Divine Hero. Uses the beast to sing Grab Your Swords, able to clean up that Hades and the Cloud Kicker. Along with the rest of Julius's board. Our producer may go back and check, but I believe that Simba, being a 2/3, may not have been banished due to the Grab Your Swords. Ron, after having cast those cards, playing another morph, decides to pass and head on over to Julius. We can see a Chernobog in Julius's hand. I wonder how many characters he has in his banish pile, allowing him to cast Chernobog for that much less. I think Ron, his opponent, sees the sign written in the sands as Chernobog comes out on the board. This big 10-drop 9/9. Very powerful card to contend with. We know that Ron has strong challengers such as Beast when it's damaged, has the ability to use Along Came Zeus to deal 5 damage to something. But Chernobog being a very difficult card to find an answer to, in Emerald Steel specifically. Our producer, Luxac, behind the scenes, will go ahead and check on that Pride Lands. I think you're right, Sam. He may be missing his triggers for his Pride Lands. Cards that are new like that can be hard to remember exactly all the triggers that you get. Julius, thinking about his next play, decides to put Chernobog onto the Pride Lands, pass it over to Ron. Ron shifting onto the Morph, quest with all his characters, and there's the handshake. What a great game 2 from these two players. We want to thank them so much for volunteering to be here on the stream, being our feature match here at Evolutions Trading in Killeen, Texas. I'm your announcer, SirAshtown, and behind the scenes is our producer, Luxac. We want to thank y'all so much for tuning in here to 20 Lore Pro. We'll be cutting to a top 8. We're currently looking at the deck lists and making sure that everyone's ready to play. We'll be going into a top 8 where our competitors will play. I want to thank y'all for joining us here at Evolutions Trading at their Lorcana 1K, first of set 3 into the Inklands. If you missed any of the tournament rounds, you can head on over to our 20 Lore YouTube, where you can watch all of the rounds later on in the week. We'll post them for you to see. If you'd like to see more of 20 Lore Pro, head on over to our YouTube, where we have tons of deck lists, deck discussions, and YouTube videos over competitive Lorcana. On March 17th, 20 Lore is heading to Dallas to the Hunter Burden Memorial, where we're going to be hosting the Hunter Burden Memorial Lorcana Championship. Be sure to tune in on March 17th for our Lorcana Championship that we will be streaming on 20 Lore exclusively. I want to thank y'all so much again for watching on Twitch. Stick around for top 8 as we give you competitive Lorcana into the Inklands.